time, win it. There he goes. He is gone. 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Penn State. Intercepted. Intercepted by Villanova. Touchdown, Penn State.
Fans outside of Beaver Stadium anticipating the arrival of their second-ranked Nittany Lions ahead of week number 3 in the final non-conference tune-up before this thing really begins. Penn State 2-0, Villanova 1-0, squaring off 3:30 kick here at Beaver Stadium today as we welcome you on into the Modelo Penn State football pregame show. Brian Tripp and our Nittany Lion legends, Christian Hackenberg, Jason Kabinda back with you. 80 degrees sunny. You can't beat this here in Happy Valley, and can't wait to see this team get back out there in one final tune-up before the real test begins.
Tell you what, if Steve Jones didn't get you fired up right there with the Penn State touchdown calls, the combination of the weather, like you said, different feel, different energy than last week. Hopefully that translates to how these boys get off the bus. They woke up on the right side of the bed, hopefully this morning. So fired up about this.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful day to go out there and get a win, man. The sun's out. I know we've caught some clouds and a little bit of rain over the past couple of game days, but it's awesome to have some great weather. This is football weather. I know the boys are going to be jacked to get out there and go get a win.
I know driving into the parking lots here this morning, you can tell there's a buzz here in Happy Valley this week with Villanova in town. Here's what's coming up on today's show. We'll get some exclusive locker room sound from head coach James Franklin. We'll hear from Chaz Coleman talk about his game and what he's done along that defensive front. And then what a story it's been with Cam Wallace in that Penn State running back room. All the attention. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen had a big game last week against FIU. But Cam Wallace in that week 1 had the hurdle against Nevada. We'll hear from him and his great comeback story, all coming up here on our Modelo Penn State football pregame show. I talked about a 34-0 shutout of FIU last week. Some good, some bad, and you kind of are trying to see, is this a team that can play all 60 minutes today and put together 4 quarters here against Villanova?
I think that's the goal, right? You know, up until this point, we really haven't seen the starters play a complete football game.
Yep.
You got a big test coming up here in 2 weeks. This game should really be about letting it all fly. I don't think you should be holding anything back from a coaching staff standpoint, which is something that I think I've seen schematically. It just seems a little vanilla. Go out and execute, keep moving the ball. We're going to out-athlete these guys. I think today is the day where you let the cat out the bag and you really start getting into the flow of your season. Could be wrong, but that's my expectation here. And I think that's the only way you pull a team out potentially of a rut that they may have carried over from last week, because although it was a win and although there was a lot of good, there was also some things that I would look at from the mental side of the coin that could potentially be an issue. So I just want these guys feeling really good coming out of today, because I think that just puts us in the best position possible heading into a bye week before a big one against Oregon.
I love what you said there. Lions, Wildcats, get the cat out of the bag.
Yeah,
here
come on.
Today. Believe me, that one didn't fly under the radar. Jason, some of the good from last week, look at the run game, and Katron Allen had a big game. Nicholas Singleton had a big game. Getting that run game on track, especially compared to week 1. You look at that 7.5 yards per carry. This was a group that did get on track last week.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to see. You know, Franklin highlighted it after, week 1 and week 2 that there were some communication issues between the offensive line. He wanted to see those things get cleaned up, and I think that really happened this week. Obviously, we're able to break and spring some really big ones. Katron Allen with a 6-7-yard touchdown round, and even without it, more than 5 yards a carry, which is absolutely what you want to have as an offense. And I hope they can continue to dominate in the run game, because we know they have that capability, especially up front with those big offensive linemen. They're strong, they're gritty. They play with that power and grit that you want to see. So
I'm glad you mentioned the explosive play, because they got one too from Devontae Ross, a 42-yard, a spectacular catch on the touchdown. So you start to see some of those explosives from the offense that you didn't see in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, those are going to come, right? And you're seeing these guys start to take these opportunities. And again, when you look at them, though, they weren't splash plays. They weren't really schemed up plays. I think it was more just your day 1 install and the fact that you had better athletes. I mean, that was a great play by Devontae Ross. Great football by Drew. Kind of knowing where he could give his guy a chance to make the play. But at the end of the day, five took care of that, and that was really good to see. And those are things that obviously you want to build on. But again, when you start getting into the meat of your schedule against some opponents that can match up with you a little bit better athletically, you're going to need to start scheming some things up. And at the end of the day, you can go out there on that practice field behind the Lash building all day long and work on it against cards and maybe a thudded up good versus good period. But
yeah.
It's still a little bit different with the adrenaline, with the fans, with all of the different factors that kind of go into it. It's a little bit different than doing it on Saturday.
Yep.
So I really want to see them do that today.
Oh, yeah. How about that defense? Pitched a shutout, 34-0 last week. Jim Knowles, his second game at the helm of that Penn State defense. And it was a bend but not break defense. James Franklin said he'd like to see them be a little bit more suffocating, but all in all, a goose egg at the end of the day tells the story.
Yeah, and not only that, you add 3 turnovers in there, 1 turnover on downs, a pick, and then obviously Chaz Coleman's forced fumble that he actually recovered himself. It's a great day. When you see turnovers out of the defense, especially 3 in a game, I mean, that is just a big, big factor when it comes to winning football games. You win the turnover battle, most of the time, 70 or so percentage of the time, you're going to win that game. So I hope they can continue to spring those turnovers. It looks like a very opportunistic defense, and there's going to be opportunities that present themselves, and they're going to continue to take advantage of them.
And I know you love the linebacker play of Tony Rojas and Amari Campbell, 9 tackles last week as well. 2 guys that I think are coming into their own at that position.
Yeah, and I'm liking the way those 2 are playing. They're starting to complement each other. I'm seeing them communicate with each other more. Obviously, Amari is a guy who just got here, so Tony, Dom, these guys are still, getting to know him, still getting to gain that trust out of each other. But, I mean, that trust is so important. I remember when I was out on the field with guys like Marcus Allen and Grant Haley, man, when I looked to my left, when I looked to my right, I knew I could trust those guys. I knew I could do one thing, make one motion, make one call, and they'd get it, and we'd all be on the same page. And I think they're starting to gain that, starting to get that chemistry, and that's going to be important going forward.
Talk a little bit about maybe some of the element of such a multiplicity of rotations up front on the defensive line, too, and how that affects the linebackers. I think that's a really unique point when you're trying to feel for a guy, right? He might stick his head in a different gap, and you got to go make him right. Is there an element to that, too, that you've seen any type of maturation process? Like I said, it has been a ton of consistency up front in terms of rotating guys, which is a good thing, but subsequently I think that's something that flies under the radar from people's perspectives. It makes the guys behind them better while they're trying to gel, too, and it's still been a really good product. Yeah,
that's a great question. I mean, I'll give you the perfect example that's just personal for me. When I was playing here at Mike, I had guys like Anthony Zettel, and I had Austin Johnson in front of me. Austin Johnson, no matter what, if he had the A-gap and that was his assignment, he was going to be in that A-gap no matter what. Now, Zettel, on the other hand, this guy might make a swim, and he might make a splash play and be in the wrong gap, and I got to make him right. But I knew that about them. So I knew the way I personally had to play and what I personally could expect pre-snap out of them that would allow me to play faster and be able to correct them when those things happen. So, yes, when you have rotations and stuff like that, that's just a matter of getting to know your guys, and that's reps.
Yep.
That's, at the end of the day, that's reps. That's getting more reps of this guy in front of me. How does this guy play? How does Zane Durant play? How does Chaz Coleman play? Does he like to rip inside? Does he like to just stay in his gap and then rip off at the last second? These are the types of feels and the types of things that you have to gain and get trust and have that chemistry over time.
I like that you're talking about defensive line play because I thought one last good thing from last week, Anai White, Xavier Gilliam, Ty Blanding, Alonzo Ford, who had an interception. Areas of perceived weakness coming into the year, defensive tackle and defensive end depth, is proving to be a strength of this Penn State defense.
Without a doubt, and the big storyline has been Chaz Coleman and his emergence last week, but that goes back to the coaching staff, how they're identifying talent, the type of bodies that they're bringing into that room, and developing, right? Chuck Losey, taking those guys, and you have a frame, you have a certain toolbox of raw skill sets. Now, how do you make all that work together to be a dominant factor? And that list just continues to grow, and that's a good thing. It may be a question mark, but it seems like it's going to be much more of a reload as opposed to something that's going to be developmental. They're stacking it really well.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me at all because when you look at the leader of that group and you see Deion Barnes, this is a guy that we both played with. I remember the way Deion used to go about his business. I remember the way he used to practice his pass rush reps in slow motion, and he was so technical about everything and making sure his hand placement was in the perfect place and did things slow and things of that nature. And he was just so much about the details. And you could see that when you see this Penn State defensive line group play. They play disciplined. They play with details. They're doing the right things. They're not in the wrong gaps. This is the kind of things that you want out of a mature group. And some of these guys are young, and they're playing with that mindset and playing with that type of technique. So that's a big credit to Deion Barnes because we know that's how he went about his business.
Well, the last 3 guys on the practice field almost every single day are Chaz Coleman, Denai Dennis Sutton, and Deion Barnes, working after practice, doing that extra work. We said it wasn't all good, though, last week. Drew Aller got off to a slow start in the game. He was just 1 for his first 5, and you could tell he was a little bit out of rhythm, especially in that first half.
Yeah, man, I think it's really tough, right? And I talked about this, like maybe it was the weather, maybe it was the 12 o'clock kick, but at the end of the day, with all of the noise and all of the expectations that are around this program at this point in time, when your guy gets off to a rough start like that, you either have to have somebody pick it up or he's got to look and dig down and pull himself up and get out of it. And fortunately, he did that, I think, in the second half. And we'll see some clips here, some great examples of it, right? This is the beginning. It just seemed off rhythm, right? And Drew's usually pretty good at taking the check down. Right there, he had the swing. He tries to force one down. It is what it is, right? This is just small timing route, right? A little whip return, trying to get it in there. This was a little bit of a bobbled transition between the running back, trying to pull it out and kick it out to the flat. But then you get into the second half, and he just finds completions. He starts stacking wins, and ultimately what that led to was a little bit more of rhythm when it came to pushing the ball down the field. And those are things that you look for as a quarterback. He had opportunities to pull himself out of it in the first half, didn't quite execute. The second half, he came out and did it. That's a check plus for me, right? Everyone's going to dive into it, again, because of the expectations of this team, and that's part of being the guy. You have to be able to battle through those. But when you look at what he's got to do today, I think it's got to be a completely different approach. I think he's got to be a lot more like week one, coming out, operating, taking what the defense gives him, putting the team in an efficient manner from a down and distance standpoint, and continuing to move the ball. And like I said earlier, hopefully they open things up and he takes some shots.
Well, you know what it's like to play here with expectations, and James Franklin talked about this week with Drew what it is like for him with all of that pressure mounting and how he handles it each and every game.
It's a really important trait and skill for guys to learn is next play. Next play. No matter what happens the previous play, positive or negative, you must move on. You must move on to the next one. And I think a couple times that happened where you miss a really easy throw that he makes 99.9% of the time, and that frustrates you. And if you're not careful, that will linger. So I thought that happened early in the game. I think he got frustrated with himself a few times, and it lingered. And I think what happens is when you got people that have invested the amount that a guy like Drew and most of our team have invested, that's easier said than done than to move on to the next play and not get frustrated and upset with yourself. But that's why it's such an important trait to learn. No matter what happens the previous play, you got to flush it and you got to move on to the next play. And each play is kind of its own entity, and you got to make sure you're maximizing it. The only way to maximize it is to be present.
Obviously, he's talking about Drew there, and talked about it with Nicholas Singleton as well. You both have played on this big stage, and you know what it's like to win and also be on the wrong end of some games here. So how do you handle that as players in those shoes?
Yeah, listen, I think it's really tough, right? And I'm trying to draw an analogy to society. It's like you have something that happens at breakfast that didn't go well, and like most of us, it's a bad day. The rest of the day, it just compounds, right? And the expectation at the end of the day, these guys are playing a game, right? But the expectation is perfection. So as a quarterback, you're in a really tough spot, right? Is he being too lackadaisical and he doesn't care enough, or does he care too much? And now it's a tough spot to be in, and I think like the best advice that I could put together is like be who you are, right? You're in that position for a certain reason, and at the end of the day, you can take the coaches out of it, you can take the fans out of it, you can take the expectation, the national media out of it. It comes down to the locker room, and what ultimately put that C on Drew's chest this year is I think what really matters, and he needs to figure out how to lead his team. And it's not just the offense, it's the entire team, because as you know, Jay, a lot of it goes through that guy and how he carries himself.
No doubt.
He's got to be able to be authentic in that manner. And then if he's not thinking about how do I need to act and he's just letting it fly, guys are going to follow him. Guys are going to make plays for him. Guys are going to pick him up. He's going to subsequently pick them up when they're down. It's one of those things that's like it's an osmosis thing. It just happens when you're in the right mindset and the right mental space. And I think that's one of those things that I would say Drew struggled with his entire time here because of all the expectations and the eyes in. And for him, I think he's just got to make the decision to get past that and just, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I go about my business. I got this on my chest, my teammates got my back, and this is how we're going to approach things.
I want to get Jason's reaction to that, but let's first look at Drew's stats from last week and what it's like for you guys in the locker room. Ends up 19 for 33, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And this is a guy who's not turning the football over. He's not putting his team in a bad spot. Yep. But ultimately, in one of these games, when Penn State played Villanova in 2021, Sean Clifford threw for over 400 yards. Parker Washington, Jahan Dotson each had 100-yard days. You're hoping Drew can put together a day like that here today and kind of answer some of those questions.
Yeah, and I think what Coach Franklin is really referring to is just having the ability to stay even-keeled and no matter what happens. And that's, football is such an emotional game. It takes so much out of you. There's the highs and the lows, but, man, if you could just stay in the middle no matter what is going on, and this is something that I struggled with early in my career, man, like whether it was right after a bad play and telling myself in my head that I sucked, or in the film room the very next morning be like, dude, like, what are you doing, or whatever the case is. It's okay to question your process or the way you're going about doing things, but never question your ability. Never question what product that you're capable of putting out on that field. And I think there's a line there in between questioning your process and questioning your own abilities, and you just can never go to that side of questioning your abilities, because you're here for a reason. You're here on scholarship, playing, starting for a reason. It's because you have the talents, because you have the ability to go out there and win. It's because your coaches trust you. It's because your teammates trust you. So trust in that. And, whether it's you need to tweak a process, you maybe need to do something different in the morning, warm up a different certain way, watch film a different certain way, whatever that is, that's different. So it's kind of being able to balance that in your own head and your own process.
Is this an instance where it's early in the year, you kind of get through it and you flush it out, or is it something that you're concerned could linger as the year went on?
I mean, without a doubt, I think it's something early in the year that should flush out. But again, I think what people are going to say is I don't think we've ever really seen who Drew is as fully like who he is, right? And that's part of how he handles his business. And it is what it is. But I think that's something that eventually has to come out. And I'm going to be frank. I think this team only goes as far as he brings us this year, right? We have a lot of really good things, but at the end of the day, when you look at it historically in college football, every national champion's got a guy at quarterback.
Yep.
So he's got a great opportunity. He's got all of the raw ability and all of the skill set to do it.
Yep.
He's shown that. Now it's just time to take those extra steps and bring everyone along with you.
Thought it was interesting how they approached the game from the other side, right? 34-0 win, great win for Penn State. You're 2-0, but FIU comes in here and they battled. It was a 10-0 game at halftime, and you look at how they approached it after the game. Football goes toe-to-toe with second-ranked Penn State in defeat. FIU keeping Penn State in check for that first half. It's interesting to see the other perspective.
Oh, please, toe-to-toe. They're doing a little bit too much there. I will say this, though. When you watch the game, when you watch our offense, what it felt like FIU made us earn absolutely everything against a team that maybe we shouldn't have had to, that maybe we could just throw a few go balls or throw a few balls like the one that he threw to Ross for that long touchdown, where we're just going out there and beating a one-on-one because we're just better. And I think that's what we really want to see today against Villanova. We want to see guys go out there and just show that they're better. Just go out there and win one-on-ones. Go out there and make it look easy. That's what we want to see.
I will give a tip of the cap, though, to their PR team. I mean, take advantage of it, right? They gotta go recruit, too. You go in there against a giant, all the expectations. And to your point, Jay, they did make us earn a lot of things, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I thought our defense played really, really well. But at the end of the day, tip of the cap, man, good job. Keep rolling. You guys got to recruit. You got to get some guys down there. You got to do what you got to do, so.
We'll see what the headlines are coming out of the Villanova press release after the game here today. Well, this Penn State football team hoping to make history this year inside Beaver Stadium, but already some history made this season as Kaylee Tallman, the fourth member of our team, joins us for the first time here on this sunny day. She has a great story about Ellie Sheehan, the female drum major of the Penn State Marching Blue Band. Hello, Kaylee.
Ellie Sheehan is making history here at Penn State as the first female drum major of the Penn State Blue Band in 125 years. Now, she's a fifth-year marketing student here at Penn State, but she's been working towards this goal for the past 4 years, and it's been a dream of hers since she was 8 years old. As the drum major, she leads over 300 Penn State Blue Band members, helping them with their marching fundamentals, conducting the halftime show, and doing the iconic flip pregame that we will see before the game today as well. She said this role has taught her so much about communication, about leadership, and about supporting others. She said also it's actually really made her emotional how many young girls have reached out to her and come up to her saying that she's inspired them to try and be the Blue Band drum major themselves once they reach that college age. She also said that the tradition she takes the most pride in as the Blue Band drum major is actually just putting the uniform on. She said that uniform carries so much tradition and so much legacy, and she tries to bring that out onto the field every single game that she's out here doing. So I'm sure we'll see that today, and hopefully she lands those two flips before the Villanova game.
Awesome stuff, Kaylee. It's an unbelievable story, and I couldn't imagine the pressure that she was under landing that first flip in week 1 against Nevada, and she nailed it.
Yeah, she definitely did. And I'll tell you what, man, she's doing a good job. Talking about marching, I'm having some flashbacks. I went to Fort Keene Military Academy for high school, so a little bit of drill, a little bit of cover, recover, half-right march. Doing a good job. They look good.
They do.
Not one of the only changes coming here at Penn State. I know it was in the news this week, but this is the final year we'll be wearing this swoosh on our shirts here on set. Penn State agreeing to a 10-year deal with Adidas to become the apparel sponsor and the apparel provider for Penn State athletics. Your reactions as former players?
I might cry. I might tear up. I might cry. We're one of those just cornerstones of college football from the beginning, and just to not see that Nike on the chest, to see maybe a change to jersey in whatever way it may go. It makes me want to go crazy, but I also understand the why and the why behind it and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish at the same time. So it's one of those subjects that makes me feel torn, but one that I also understand at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's the first time where I've felt how I think different factions of the Penn State fan base have felt about different topics, where I've always been, hey, we got to do what we got to do to stay competitive. There's money. This is a business. Don't mess with the jerseys, man. Dude, do not mess with the jerseys. It's one of those things. I know how this is probably going to shake out, and like I said, we got to get behind it. But it's just one of those things where, to your point, Jay, like for as long as I can remember, that check has been synonymous with that basic blue white helmet with the stripe and black shoes. And there's some things. There's been reports that have come out about just maybe lackluster attention to detail with Penn State specifically, which is weird. I think that brings a whole nother angle of questions into the equation. Is it Phil Knight back in Oregon, and now, maybe there's some stuff with how close Phil Knight was with Joe Paterno. Who knows, right? But I think that there's a really unique thing. It looks like Brian, we got the guys coming in?
Yeah, I think the guys are getting set to arrive here at Beaver Stadium, but reportedly a 10-year, $300 million deal, so $30 million per year. And in this era of NIL and endowment, Adidas is getting behind that. We saw it at Tennessee with $20 million. I think it speaks to what the Penn State brand is with reportedly $30 million a year.
Yeah, tip of the cap to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just worth, bringing up. I grew up a Nike guy my whole life, literally never wore any other apparel when it comes to football at all, except when Cam Newton dropped the Cam Newton cleats. I believe those were Under Armour at that time. That is the only cleat I ever wore that was different while I was in high school. But, I grew up on Nike cleats, and cleats are super important to guys. And I think it's important to note that when you talk about the cleat game and what football players like, man, the only guys who really wear Adidas cleats are the kickers, because obviously Adidas is known for the soccer and the thinner cleats, and they're more lightweight and things of that nature. So I'm more so interested to see what the reaction of players is going to be and how they're going to be able to be accommodated and feel good and feel comfortable about the way that they can move in Adidas cleats. So I think that's going to be a big subject and a big topic, because it would be if I was a player.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to slander Adidas, but you know how it is in the league. You get the charts of all the different performances of the cleats, and obviously you have guys like Pat and Gav, guys like Aaron. There's a little bit of an attention to detail with those cats when they're getting their shoes specifically fitted for their feet and different performances and stuff like that. But with that level of investment, you would expect something like that out of Adidas for our guys here. So I hope that that's the case, and I hope we're lobbying for that, because again, there is a discrepancy, and that's just statistical facts, right? To your point, though, Tripp, I think them coming forward and making that investment, that's something that when you look across the landscape of college sports as a whole, whether you're an apparel company, whether you're a helmet and equipment company, you're going to have to start making those types of investments. You got to play. You got to play the game. So,
or if you're the official import beer of
That
football,
is right.
And Penn State athletics. And Modelo, nothing goes better with football season. Nothing goes better with Penn State football than an ice-cold Modelo, 21+. Please enjoy responsibly. As you can tell, the energy outside Beaver Stadium ramping up, and we're not done yet here. We'll be back with more of the Penn State football pregame show presented by Modelo after this.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
We are going for all the marbles next year.
You know the history, and you have felt the roar. But now, you can relive it all. Welcome to the Vault on Roar Plus, where every unforgettable Penn State moment lives forever.
If you can get people to believe you're fair, I think that's the whole secret of coaching.
From black and white grit to high-def glory, the Vault is your front row seat to the moments that built this tradition and the ones that built you as a fan. It's not just history, it's Penn State history. And it's all right here at Roar Plus. The roar never stops.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
The Penn State defensive line outstanding last week against FIU and in week 1 against Nevada. Last week, 9 tackles for loss, a couple of sacks. And Jason, obviously Chaz Coleman's a guy that's grabbing a lot of headlines right now, but this unit has been exceptional for that Penn State defense.
Yeah, I mean, they've been outstanding. I mean, they've just been wreaking havoc week in and week out, and I expect that to continue today. Some young names, Chaz Coleman, you mentioned, a guy who's long, rangy, reminds me a lot of a Chandler Jones type of player. You know, Denai Dennis-Sutton has really taken his game to another level this year. Obviously, Abdul Carter leaving this year was an issue, and you know, it was a question mark. And then the guys on the interior with Zane Durant, Alonzo Ford, can they step up and be the guys that they need to be? And they've done that so far. So I got some clips here that I kind of want to demonstrate to you. And you know, kind of what the game plan for FIU was, their offensive coordinator. Their game plan is, let's take this defensive line out of the equation. How exactly do we do that? With run-pass options. Now watch Denai Dennis-Sutton at the top of the screen, number 33. The way you stop RPO is you attack the mesh point and you attack it with speed. You make it tough on the quarterback to make a decision. Are you going to give the ball to running back, or am I going to keep it? You're going to see a pass concept at the top, and you're going to see inside run on the bottom. And Denai Dennis-Sutton just comes to this backfield and attacks this mesh point in a flash and makes it impossible for the quarterback to make a decision. You see his frustration there as he wanted to keep that ball. Now we got another RPO here. We got a pass concept at the top. Denai Dennis-Sutton at the top of your screen, 33. He's going to attack that mesh point one more time. And this time the quarterback's going to keep it. But the thing that Denai does here is he settles his feet. He makes it look like he's going to tackle the running back, but he settles his feet so he's still under control and puts himself in position to still be able to make the play on the quarterback here. You're going to see Denai here. Attacks the mesh point, settles the feet, puts the pressure on the quarterback, makes it impossible to make a throw. Another PBU right there. Now look, bottom of your screen, I want you to look at Zariah Fisher. He's going to try a speed to power move, and this defensive line was just suffocating. This quarterback never felt comfortable. They kept moving him off of his spot and never allowed him to set his feet and make throws. Zariah Fisher goes speed to power here on this offensive tackle. You're going to see it. Moves the quarterback off of the spot, makes it tough for him to make a decision. Another PBU by Chaz Coleman, the guy who I mentioned earlier, 19, who's going to have an absolutely fantastic year, whose role is continuing to grow. Now I want you to look at Chaz Coleman, bottom of the screen here. He's going to do a speed to rip, dip and rip move on this offensive tackle. And then he's going to work a drill that the defensive line work every single day, and that's a takeaway drill. He's going to come around, bend that corner, and he's going to get that ball off that quarterback and create a turnover, which is a huge splash play for this defense. Look at that, speed and rip, get the ball off the quarterback. They practice this every single day. That's how they finish their rushes, and you see it demonstrated in the game there. Deion Barnes doing a great job with this group. They are continuing to grow. They are thriving. It was a little bit of a question mark going into this year. Can they have just as much production? And they've shown it so far this year.
Well, Chaz Coleman is an unbelievable athlete. He is a freak athlete. Have you seen his high school basketball tape? I mean, this guy gets after it.
Okay. Whoa. All right.
Christian, you want to break this one down?
Oh, the pullback. Pullback.
I don't know, man. I thought it might have been a travel, but that was pretty good. I like it.
Jason, you missed it before. There were a couple of fans itching for an ice cold Modelo back behind you. Taking the only thing more popular.
I was wondering why you're just busting out laughing while I'm trying to do this defensive film breakdown here.
The only thing more popular for pictures than you two guys is our giant Modelo can behind us here on set.
Absolutely love it. They absolutely love it.
The team making their way into Beaver Stadium right now. West Shore home field at Beaver Stadium on this sunny Saturday, a 3:30 kickoff. It's airing on FS1 and of course the Penn State Sports Network. What's What's it like when you walk into the stadium on game day?
Yeah, I was just about to ask Jason if he misses it, man. That's a great walk. I always made sure I got my mom and my family, which was an awesome thing. And it's kind of that last little, all right, time to lock in, Had some DMX in the headphones.
Yeah, man, it's awesome to see the fans and the way they show love to the guys. And not only that, but you get to see your tribe. Whether it's mom, whether it's dad, whether it's your cousins, whether it's friends from home that are there to see you. It's a great opportunity to kind of have that interaction before you fully lock in and turn it on for the game.
What was in your headphones when you were walking in?
A lot of Future, a lot of Young Thug, a bit of Drake, some Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who controlled the aux in the locker room on each of your teams?
Marcus Allen.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, two had that.
Well, so many great stories with this Penn State football team already here in this young season, but one of the best ones, Cam Wallace, coming back from injury and what he's done to add more depth to that already deep Penn State running back room as we check back in with Kaylee Tallman on the field at Beaver Stadium. Kaylee, it is a remarkable journey for Cam Wallace.
Yeah, Brian, it absolutely is. And he was instrumental in that game against Nevada, especially in the fourth quarter in week 1. But it meant even more because that was his first touches of the football in almost a year after he broke both of his legs in the Kent State game back the prior season. Now in that game, there was an iconic play. He hurdled a Nevada defender wearing the number 26, looking a whole lot like Penn State legend Saquon Barkley, hurdling many defenders, both at Penn State and in the NFL. Morgan Siegfried caught up with Cam Wallace a couple of days ago to hear more about how his journey coming back to football was and that iconic play. Check it out.
Cam, you suffered a season-ending injury last year, and Coach Franklin was quoted saying there's the emotional component, the physical component, and the mental component that goes into recovering from an injury like that. How'd you handle all three?
I'll start off with the physical aspect of it. That was the most easiest for me because I'm a guy that always like to get extra work in the weight room, always come on the field to get extra work. So that part came easy to me, just going out and getting extra work. I say the toughest for me would be like the mental part of it, just not being able to actually play the game of football and to be around the guys, that brought me up each and every day. So that was the hardest part of it. And emotionally, going through all the emotions, sad, happy for the guys winning, all that. But at the end, God got me in a great position. I'm just blessed to be back on my feet.
Probably matured you really fast.
Of course.
Now you're back and you're clearly healthy. We saw that Saturday.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
For me, in the moment, it wasn't a big thing, because I was just out there playing football. But looking at it from a social media aspect, it looked kind of crazy, and just other people knowing like where I came from and knowing that I came from a big injury like that, it was just a big deal for everything and everybody. So it was exciting to see.
You had a Saquon-esque hurdle wearing the number 26. There's certain moments in sports that almost feel written. Did that feel like one to you?
Kinda, yeah, just knowing the history behind the number 26 and him hurdling people. So I know that was a big deal for me and a big deal for the fans. So it was a pretty big thing.
He reached out to you, Saquon. What was his message?
His message was just keep going, stay strong, keep your head down and work. And he said, I love the hurdle, man, keep going. That's what he said.
I love that. We saw a video of Nick Singleton saying, watch this before your hurdle. What do your teammates support? What has that meant to you? Not just Nick, but bigger than that through this whole process.
A lot. I mean, like I said, like from a mental and emotional aspect of it, like those guys are like your brothers, you want to be around those guys each and every day. Those are the guys you go to war with at practice, in the games, in the weight room. So those guys just bring you up and really just bring your happiness around when you're away from family. So I'm just happy to be back with the guys.
Let's have a little fun. Pre-game hype song.
Pre-game hype song. Woo! For me, I'm like a Rod Wave type of guy, so I go with Rod Wave Youngin'. Okay. Youngin' by Rod Wave.
All right, cue it up. Cheat day meal.
I like candy, so I eat some trolley worms or something like that. Yeah.
If you weren't playing football, what would be your dream job?
My dream job? Probably be a truck driver, give them CDLs or whatever. Yeah, drive trucks.
All right, I'll leave you with this. What is your perfect touchdown celebration? Let you show the camera.
Look. For y'all that know, you gotta hit that YK Nisi, look. It's that easy, look.
There we go.
That's all I got for y'all, man.
Turf Talk, Cam Wallace, more to come.
Some nice little dance moves from Cam Wallace there at the very end. It'll be interesting to see how head coach James Franklin uses him in the running back rotation, along with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton as well. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we have the same iPod playlist there. Is an iPod still a thing? But Kaylee, really appreciate it. Great stuff as always. And I'm waiting to see if he's going to hurdle backwards next.
Yeah, I was going to say that, man. I mean, it reminds me a lot of guys like Miles Sanders, you know. I mean, not everybody got to see it, but we saw it every single day in practice. Obviously, Saquon was our guy. He was our lead back, and Saquon was just so uber talented. But, man, Miles was super talented too, and he really had to wait his turn. And it just feels really similar when you get to see Cam go out there and make the plays that he makes, you know, whether it's in the second half or whether it's in the rotation of some of these games. You just know that, man, he's going to be the guy to take over and to be the next lead back of, you know, Penn State University. So I'm excited for his future.
I have to ask you this, though. When you're in practice, when was the first time you realized that Saquon was going to be this?
Oh, we realized that pretty early.
I could tell you exactly. It was my junior year. No. It wasn't even that. It was my junior year. We had Jimmy Haslett as an advisor, QC or whatever.
Yep.
Late in training camp, turned around, threw him a pitch to the left. I was kind of lazy, just kind of watched it. I think Dion came off and sorry D-Block, but Dion or somebody, I don't know if it was you, but whoever, came off the edge clean, and he kind of gave him just a little stutter step and a jump cut, and then took it 60 up the sideline, and no one caught him. And I watched it, and then I turned around, and who's looking at me? Jimmy Haslett, and I just looked at him, and he goes. So from that point on,
yeah,
I knew 2-6 was for real, and he grew into a man.
Yeah, he just had the ability to do things that you just knew nobody else could do but him, you know, from the beginning. Whether it's hurdling guys, whether it's crazy Lions Den, it looks like he's tackled with 3 people in the. I mean, and I hate this clip because I'm in it. And this clip circulates and goes viral each and every single year. We do this Lions Den drill. It's a 3-on-3 with a linebacker in the back and a running back in the back of the offensive front. And the 3 guys go against each other, and you know, the D-line basically beat the offensive lineman blocks pretty clean. They get in the backfield. I'm literally rushing up just to get a piece of Saquon because I'm assuming he's about to be on the ground.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, on Schwan, boom, comes around the outside, and all of a sudden I'm out of position. He runs it all the way for a touchdown. I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Circulates every year, and I get so pissed off every time I see the clip because I'm in it. And people always send it to me. I'm like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Sure, Say probably said
this is my plea to stop sending me that clip.
It makes for a great transition, though, to this week in playing Villanova. You didn't really have a chance to get Cam Wallace, Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, if available, reps last week because it was such a tight game for so long. I think the key today is to try to play your best football, play to a standard for 60 minutes, but also get those guys in the football game, and that means the ones doing their job, ones and twos doing their job, and you have a chance to go deeper down your depth chart.
Yeah, I think so too, but the one thing I said is I think those guys got to continue to take advantage of whatever opportunity they're given, right? And this is a long season. It's getting longer with the playoff extension and the playoff runs, so you're going to need more depth across your entire roster and depth chart. So, you know, I do want to see these ones get pushed because they haven't played a full 60 minutes yet. I mean, last week, you know, whatever, but they haven't quite played a full 60 minutes yet, and there's an element to that, as you know, Jay, from a player like that fourth quarter is for real. There's a reason you're doing the hills at 6 in the morning on during summer sessions in the sand pit. So I do want to see that, but I think these guys just need to continue to stay process-oriented. And obviously, you know, the one thing that I took from Cam's talk there with Morgan was just about how the teammates were able to pick him up, and I think that's an overlooked element of it, right? You know, Jay, seeing guys that have been in that training room for so long for whatever it is, and, you know, everybody's got problems in a football locker room, whether it's mental, whatever, and everyone's trying to get off of it, but guys being able to pick each other up, it's a testament to the makeup and the core of the program, which I think is oftentimes overlooked, but a big tip of the cap and worth saying.
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think, you know, as football players, we sometimes tie our identity to how successful we are on the field or what we're doing. So when the opportunity to be successful on the field gets taken away altogether, you start to feel pretty useless. You start to feel like you have no purpose, like, you know, and that's really hard. I still remember when I had broken my thumb my junior year, and we go into that Michigan game, and they're just running the rock up the middle over and over again, right where I would be. And I just kept watching and being like, dang, man, there's nothing I can do. You know, it's really tough mentally to deal with because obviously, you know, you're here on scholarship at Penn State University. You know you're a hard worker. You know you're going to go get the extra work, do the things that you need to do because Coach Franklin picked you to be here, so you know that's in your character. But, man, that mental part of it, that not feeling useless, that, you know, being able to re-identify yourself and finding the little wins and the smallest things, whether that's going from not being able to walk to taking a step to that first jog to that first time opening up and running, whatever it is, the first lift, you know, whatever it is, it's being able to find those wins until, you know, you're back up to speed and where you need to be.
Well, this is a group that can't look past Villanova, but we certainly all know what's on the horizon. They'll have 2 weeks to tune up, a bye week next week, and Oregon coming up to start Big Ten play. The whiteout game and the Ducks have been off to a terrific start this year. You look at some of the numbers that they've posted in their first 2 games and underway already against Northwestern today, and it's an Oregon team that's going to come in here to end the month of September that's incredibly, incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I think that they've been cooking. I mean, offensively, 500 yards total offense against Montana State, and then I think the following week it was a bit over 600, maybe 630 or something like that. But third down conversion rates through the roof, penalties are low, red zone efficiency is high. It's an offense that has a ton of confidence, and I think their quarterback's he's a very, very dangerous player. Yep. Extremely athletic, extremely dynamic with his legs, throws the football competently. It's a tough first challenge of the season to walk into, and I think it's good versus good from what we've seen up until this point in terms of how our defense is played and how their offense is playing, but I think that's going to be the tipping point, right? And I think today is it's a very integral opportunity to control what you can. You can't control who you're playing. You can control about how you handle your business. You have to handle your business the right way to carry that into that bye week. So when you're running out of that tunnel at 7:30 on September 27th, you feel as ready for that challenge as humanly possible without actually facing anything even remotely close to it up to this point.
And they have 194 yards today in the first half. It's halftime right now. They're up 17-0 on Northwestern.
Yeah, I think the stats there to kind of pay the most attention to that are going to be, you know, post challenges for us is one, you know, 9 for 9 and 4 for 4 from red zone. I mean, they're very efficient in red zone. They go out there and they go and get points. And then third down, they're hovering around 50 or 60% above, you know, in conversion rate. So being able to stop them on third down. And then, you know, you talk about Dante Moore, their quarterback, you know, he's an athletic guy. You know, that's what gives defenses some of the biggest challenges. These athletic guys, where even where the coverage is doing well and you've got everybody covered up and there's nothing more that needs to be done, but then he gets outside. He gets outside the rush. Now he's breaking the pocket. Now he's making a guy miss at the second level, and all of a sudden it's a first down. I mean, those are the kinds of things that just take the air out of you as a defense because you feel like you did everything right. You felt like you did what you were supposed to do. The routes were covered. It's above 4 or 5 seconds for the pass rush to get home, and when they don't get home, they convert on that first. It's a gut punch.
Well, let's not forget about Villanova today. A little bit more on the Wildcats. We'll find out if these guys think that this schedule is prepared for Penn State for what's on the horizon. But Villanova, last year in the CAA, they're moving to the Patriot League, 10-4 last year. Typically one of the best FCS teams. Their famous alumni, the Pope, Howie Long, and Brian Westbrook. They're 1-0, defeated Colgate 24-17 in week number 1. Look, not all of it is in Penn State's control because you had the Virginia Tech game that was supposed to be last week, but because of COVID, they ended up not continuing the series. Do you feel like this has prepared Penn State enough for Oregon, and what do they need to do today against Villanova to show that at least things are going in the right direction? They're 2-0. They've been dominant the first 2 weeks, but I still think there's a lot of questions out there.
Yeah, I think the question of is it prepared enough is a really tough one. You know, and I think Jay's been on some really good teams. I've been on some good teams in my career, and I think, again, it just goes back to the guys in the locker room and how you approach your business. And that's really all we can judge you upon because at the end of the day, no matter how you cut the cake, you look at the two rosters, Jimmy's and Joe's, they're not the same. It's apples to oranges, and that's not a knock to Villanova. These guys are going to come out. They're going to be coached up well. They're going to be prepared, but there's elements throughout it where, you know, you can just give somebody an opportunity that's just a better football player, and he's going to make better plays. So for me, it's just really about controlling, again, what you can control, handling business. And I need to see the scoreboard lit up today. I want to see the defense continue the momentum they've had. But that'll put me in at least a good position to know that heading into the meat of the season, they're ready. They're as prepared, and they took advantages of this light start as much as possible.
Yeah, Penn State rolling right through these first 3 games before you have the bye week, and then you take on Oregon. Let's go back to Kaylee Tallman. She's inside Beaver Stadium right now. The team's starting to take the field, and Kaylee, it's a great day for college football.
It is a great day for college football. It's sunny out here, other than my drenched hair last week. We're all dry today, and actually Drew Aller just came out. He's warming up. He looks locked in, ready to go. It's going to be important for him to have a huge, solid performance today. As for an availability report, the same 18 players are out today that were out last week against FIU. No new updates there, which is positive for Penn State because that means no notable starters are not available for today's game. Now, Brian, it should be a good one here today.
Great stuff all day long at Kaylee, and that means Zion Tracy, Zariah Fisher, who we saw last week, back out there again today. I thought those were two big returnees to the Penn State defense last week. Anything else to add, or are we done for the day?
Feeling good. I think I'm ready to chug a Modelo.
Yeah, go for it. It's football season. Nothing goes better with Penn State football than an ice-cold Modelo, the official import beer partner of Penn State Athletics 21+. Please enjoy responsibly. I don't think you guys are the only ones doing that here on this warm, sunny day at Beaver Stadium. A 3:30 start between Penn State and Villanova. This was awesome. We'll be back here in a couple of weeks ahead of the whiteout. Enjoy the game today. It's coming up on FS1 for Kaylee Tallman, Jason Kabinda, Christian Hackenberg, and our entire team. Brian Tripp saying so long. Thanks for tuning in to the Penn State football pregame show presented by those ice-cold Modelos.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
We are going for all the marbles next year.
You know the history, and you have felt the roar. But now, you can relive it all. Welcome to the Vault on Roar Plus, where every unforgettable Penn State moment lives forever.
If you can get people to believe you're fair, I think that's the whole secret of coaching.
From black and white grit to high-def glory, the Vault is your front row seat to the moments that built this tradition and the ones that built you as a fan. It's not just history, it's Penn State history. And it's all right here at Roar Plus. The roar never stops.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.